is it that makes you different? Because your product is not new.
True.
There are bigger companies doing what you do. Why are companies coming to you? क्यों लोग आपके पास आ रहे हैं? क्या different है?
No matter what, we will never lie to our client. We will never lie to our employee, and we will never. We will always be very radically transparent. I think that resonated with like-minded individuals.
It's a key theme within Hub 47. We aim to create a network, a community of mentors essentially.
अगर decision making को efficient बना दिया जाए, so the organization can be a lot more productive. They challenge your way of thinking. I think that's a very core value of LUMS.
Because हमारा जो experience था working with some of the research companies was slightly below par. So we thought that there is an opportunity in terms of digitizing how data is collected.
Was it directly shifting from a job to your business, or was it hustle in the beginning? क्या story थी उधर?
We thought that okay, if this is going to fail, we need to have a backup plan. And over time, we realized that that is not how it works. Until and unless you remove all the backup plans, you don't put in your full effort. So initially, I think it made sense at that point in time that we did not leave our jobs. We had really good mentors. I think that's a very core ingredient to this as well. We continued our jobs, and in our so we pursued this as a passion.
There was a time when we had a shared space and a couple of employees sitting in one of the shared spaces. So, and Amanullah and I were both doing 9 to 5.
How much of your success would you attribute to your mentors?
Without any of these variables, we wouldn't have existed as Akademos. So mentors do guide you, but they also are an inspiration in themselves.
Yes.
You see them and you want to be like them.
I do consult a lot with my father as well, my wife for that matter, my brothers too.
Was it easy as a person to ask for help, to seek advice?
I've seen that some people find it very difficult to ask for help, which is also okay. They find their ways as well. But for me, I think there's a lot of practice. So 4 years of trying to meet 5 people every week.
Assalamu alaikum, Nazreen or Sameen. Welcome to Pace Podcast with Hub 47. This is your host Ali Akram. यहाँ पे हम पाकिस्तानी एंटरप्रेन्योर्स और प्रोफेशनल्स से बातचीत करेंगे. They are your mentors. They are your torch bearers. They are your guiding lights. इंशाल्लाह इनसे बातचीत में आप बहुत सारी इंसाइट्स लेंगे, आपको गाइडेंस मिलेगी अपनी जर्नीज के अंदर, and we will learn a lot from their personal experiences and why they went on their particular journeys. आज के हमारे गेस्ट्स हैं अकेडेमोस की फाउंडिंग टीम साद अकबर और अमानुल्लाह. They are young, they are accomplished, they are very inspiring individuals. उन्होंने बड़ी जल्दी अपनी कंपनी को बहुत अच्छे लेवल पे लेके गए, and they are currently serving a lot of high profile clients in Pakistan. Hopefully you enjoyed this segment and do comment what you feel about this session. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Hub 47, Saad और अमानुल्लाह. आपका बहुत शुक्रिया कि आप यहाँ आए हमारे पास पाकिस्तान एसोसिएशन दुबई में. Hub 47 विजिट किया आपने, and you've kindly agreed to become mentors of the Hub 47 community. Thank you so much. How was your experience so far? कैसा लगा आपको?
Thank you, Ali, for inviting us, and very grateful to be a part of this community, and very eager to see and contribute in whatever ways we can. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for having us. I think it's been wonderful with, just gone through the site, and it's been lovely, and it's been a pleasure meeting you guys as well. So very excited to be a part.
Thank you. I think we're very, we're very excited with the response we've had with the people like you getting interested. आप जो है एक example हैं success stories के, एक inspiration है, being so young and mashallah being successful and growing very fast. Hopefully you have more success in the future. आपकी field जो है वो बड़ी important है, I think, for any business, because your main product is data and understanding data. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. क्या आप क्या करते हैं for our audience?
Sure. So I'm Amanullah and Saad. We are both co-founders at Akademos. It started off as a purely a market research company and then evolved into a research consultancy. Essentially, what we do is we help organizations make informed decisions. हमारा मानना ये है कि अगर decision making को efficient बना दिया जाए, so the organization can be a lot more productive. And उस goal के साथ we believe that there are a lot of ways people make decisions. There are different variables they incorporate. There's experience, there's hunch, there's sixth sense. But if you don't back all of that with data, then we think that the decision can be improved if you include data into it as well. So we're not saying that you should only look at the data, you should look at the context, you should look at everything. But our purpose of existence is that we are proponents of this mantra that just include data and its analysis into your decision making process. That will help you become more efficient in every sense of the word. So that's what we do. We can go into more detail of Akademos.
No, of course. I think, but importantly, it's kind of part of maturing as a person, as an entrepreneur, to look at data objectively and independently. हम काफी देर तक अपनी जिंदगी में शायद अपनी assumptions या अपने experiences पे अपने decisions को base करते हैं. But the value of data you only learn once you experience it, once you figure it out, and being proven wrong in your assumptions is a very important part of that journey, I guess.
That is true. And I think our core business is to come up with insights that are counterintuitive. If you already know something, either validate it or invalidate it through data. And at most of the times, what we come up with is challenging the status quo in the minds of the business owners or the professionals. So I think that's also the most challenging, but also the most interesting part of the work, that you go against the flow of common sense of logic. So I think that's what sort of keeps us going, and Saad can share his view on this as well.
Yeah, I think for us, it has been challenging. I think it's the market that we've operated in the sense that it's not always, and we started off from Lahore, and that was a difficult place to begin because वहाँ पर ज़्यादा जो है एक बहुत structured business का culture नहीं है. The sets up.
So we are definitely. I'm from Lahore. We're not scientific.
Private family businesses.
We're very emotional. We're very.
So I think वो हमारे लिए challenging उस sense में ये भी था कि बहुत जल्दी उनको convince करना कि data है वो ज़रूरी है, और like माला said कि counterintuitive अगर आ रहा है तो उसको like उनको convince करना कि ये important है आपके decision making के लिए, और अगर वो बिल्कुल जो वो समझते हैं वो आता है तो वो उनको लगता है कि अच्छा So I think वो भी एक जो है हमारे लिए बड़ा exciting रहा है, but I think yes, primarily the fun is there in terms of in terms of how you operate with it.
Yeah. So tell me this, कि आप जो हैं, you're young and you started young. Your business has been around for how many years now?
8 years.
8 years, mashallah. So what made you go down that path? I mean, you both were batchmates at LUMS, I believe. कैसे शुरू हुआ? LUMS से आपने job क्यों नहीं गए? And you were in data. There are many big firms out there who are doing data. What made you have this thought that you need to have your own setup? Okay, we can do this ourselves. What was that process like?
I think I can recount the story a bit. So we started off, हम लोग जो दोनों batchmates थे, and we used to take a lot of courses together.
Actually, we were together in the same school since I think secondary O levels.
Oh, Zabardast.
I migrated from Kasur. So the first person that I actually met in Lahore, I think वहाँ पे class के अंदर, was one of the first people I met was Amanullah.
Nice.
So we were together in O level, A level, and then we went to LUMS together. So we used to take a lot of courses together, and I think one of the very initial courses that we took was Introduction to Philosophy. So हमारा जो like-mindedness, I think हमें वहाँ से जो है बहुत मिली. उसके बाद we were very lucky enough to get a mentor, which is Dr. Ali Hassan. He used to be the dean of economics at LUMS, and हमने उनके साथ एक senior project किया, and the project was simply around trying to identify influential people in a rural district in Pakistan in terms of how politics manifests there. So I think हम बिल्कुल कसूर के एक छोटे से गांव के अंदर सहजरा उस गांव का नाम था और हम वहाँ पर गए and we collected data ourselves. हमने primary research खुद की and we both realized that this is something that's very interesting, something that interests us. और वहाँ से हमारा थोड़ा passion develop हुआ. And political research was one, but also उसमें socio-economic element भी था. So I think वहाँ पर जो है हमने realize किया कि this is something that we could make a living out of as well, because we realized कि data collection companies जो है वो पाकिस्तान में है, but there is a lot of little improvements that can be done over how the data is collected, and we did that after we started working together within our corporate within our jobs too. But I think primarily it was I think वहाँ से एक हमारा interest जो है, that was the start.
I think just adding on to what Saad said, a good thing and a bad thing of studying at LUMS is that they challenge your way of thinking. I think that's a very core value of LUMS and its professors. They challenge everything, and you either break down in life that what am I even doing, what I can, or you sort of challenge everything and you think very like you challenge the core principles of how things are being done. I personally think that is a very core value of any entrepreneur, to just challenge and be curious about things. And I think at that point in time at LUMS, they also teach you how to think big and bigger than yourself. I think that was a very core takeout from LUMS. After that, and there was a core, I think, value that we shared, that we always wanted to be job creators. Our both families are business families, and even there was a lot of pressure from our parents as well that आप नौकरी कर लो, सीख लो, मगर एंड में कारोबार आना है. It was either the option of joining my family business, my father's business, or doing something yourself. And again, in any family business, it's there's a very low chance that the next generation has the same passion or the same field of passion as their previous generation. So we decided to sort of experiment with this. Honestly, we thought that it will fail. Very honestly, we thought that it's going to fail and we'll try something else immediately. There was this
experiment.
Experiment there. I think Google Project X was very popular at that point in time, and their mantra was fail early, fail fast.
Yes.
And we tried to fail early and fail fast. Unfortunately or fortunately, we got a lot of traction. And but then I'm sure it sounds very easy in retrospect. At that point in time, there was a lot of pressure from everyone, because you see your batchmates going through the growth of employment in different MNCs, and you keep questioning yourself: Am I wasting my time here? Your parents also keep pushing you कि अच्छा शौक पूरा कर लिया बाजो. So वो वाले core time, if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe that yes, it's going to work out, I have to have that faith. I think that's very challenging time as well. I don't know. I think what made us stick to it. At times, we very honestly we also questioned and we thought of maybe just joining a company and pursuing that career. But I'm thankful that we didn't do that.
We did start off with doing jobs. Mala was working with Dr. Elias Nair right after, I think, we graduated. I went on to do my master's.
Right.
We came back. I started working in the development sector. I worked in a local NGO called Karwan Trust Foundation. Was very lucky there to have a very good mentor, just like Amanullah did, I think, when he joined Carnelian afterwards. So उसके बाद, I think, बट वहाँ पर आई थिंक हमारी एंगेजमेंट काफी रिसर्च कंपनीज के साथ भी हुई और हमें रियलाइज हुआ कि जो हमारा पहले वो हाइपोथेसिस था जो हमने प्रोजेक्ट पे टेस्ट किया था, दैट माइट बी ट्रू, बिकॉज हमारा जो एक्सपीरियंस था वर्किंग विद सम ऑफ द रिसर्च कंपनीज वाज slightly below par. So we thought that there is an opportunity in terms of digitizing how data is collected.
Right.
I think in terms of also in terms of we just saw an opportunity and just thought that Google वाला जो मंत्र था
test करके. Fascinating. I think you what I liked about the last segment was that you told us about all the ingredients that had to come together. The family business background, कुछ करना था, the idea that you have to be job creators rather than job takers. I think that's a very core kind of driver motivator for you guys. That exposure to research and that interest as well, especially from that impact aspect कि आपने देखा कि जी कौन influential लोग होते हैं. All that has to come together for to stick to this idea, to stick with it, to drive right through that initial tough phase probably.
True.
You also mentioned very interestingly that you were doing job as well. Was it directly shifting from a job to your business, or was it a hustle in the beginning? क्या story थी उधर?
I think initially, and we are both, I think, coming from a business background, so risk mitigation is in our blood. And we thought that, okay, if this is going to fail, we need to have a backup plan. And over time, we realized that that is not how it works. Until and unless you remove all the backup plans, you don't put in your full effort. So initially, I think it made sense at that point in time that we did not leave our jobs. We had really good mentors. I think that's a very core ingredient to this as well. For example, my mentors at Carnelian, Kamran Rizvi, Shireen Naqvi, these are trainers in the Pakistani industry. They encourage people to start different companies because their mantra is that one company cannot do it all, and there's a lot of work to be done. So their mindset wasn't that काम नहीं है पाकिस्तान में. Their mindset was कि अगर companies नहीं है, and we need companies to sort of do these tasks. So they always encourage people to start new companies. And I think वो mentorship वाला element था वहाँ पे. उसके बाद I think वो जो और भी बहुत ज़्यादा variables है that we really can't name each and every one of them because we don't even know.
Yes.
There's support from family. So, for example, during COVID, when we jumped our ship from our jobs, if it wasn't for my family, for my parents, my wife, to just take that confidence in me that okay, just take the leap and we are with you. I don't think I or Saad could have done that. But initially, I think it was important to just test the idea without radically removing all the other backup plans. So we continued our jobs, and so we pursued this as a passion. And because it was a passion, we didn't mind the extra hours. And even after a couple of first employees, they were doing full time, and we were not doing full time.
जी.
So I think initial model में that worked, and I can talk about the how and why we jumped the ship. But before that, if you guys have
I think it was the same. There was a time when we had a shared space and a couple of employees sitting in one of the shared spaces. So, and Amanullah and I were both doing 9 to 5. There was also a year when I think Amanullah went on to do his
Masters.
MBA, yes, from Turkey.
All right.
And I think उस time पे जो है, but yeah, like Amanullah said, it was about the mentors primarily. We were very lucky to have very good bosses. Mine was Danish Jabbar Khan, and वो वहाँ पर CEO है, and he was very kind in the sense के उनको भी पता था कि ये idea में थोड़ी सी जान है और ये मेरा passion है. And I think it's really important to have those mentors or those who support you at that time. I think अगर वो आज उन्होंने अगर कहा होता कि नहीं, you're not supposed to take this, या मैं उनको इतना candidly ना बता सकता, so probably we would have just stopped that.
I mean, mentors is a very important topic. It's one of the key themes of this podcast as well. It's a key theme within Hub 47. We aim to create a network, a community of mentors, essentially. From your experience, how important was their role in you to accelerate your journey? और कितना उन्होंने आपको help किया pitfalls को avoid करने के लिए? I mean, would you have how much of your success would you attribute to your mentors?
So again, there's so many variables that it will be unfair to only talk about one. So,
Yes.
However, I think without any of these variables, we wouldn't have existed as Akademos. Personally, I think in mentoring, in mentorship, I would, and more than mentorship, also inspiration. So mentors do guide you, but they also are an inspiration in themselves.
Yes.
You see them and you want to be like them.
Right.
So at Carnelian, my previous managers, And the entire culture of the company was that they enable you. So it's not about you just doing your job. It's about them trying to enable you so that you can fulfill your full potential. So I think my inspirational leaders at Carnelian were Kamran, Shireen, as I said, there were a couple of others, my direct supervisors, and they always used to just talk to me very personally on an individual level and explore that what is it that I want to do. And they became sort of a platform. Even Carnelian became a platform for me to try and do things what I want to do. So, for example, initially I tried to do research through Carnelian's platform. They were very open with that. Okay, you want to do research? You have spent like 4 or 5 years. Try that through this platform. It couldn't work because the model was entirely different. It was built around a training company. But I think that sort of gave me confidence to try things. And again, their inspiration as well, because I know that they individually have started 10, 15 companies. They have failed a couple of companies. So when you observe them, when you talk to them, it doesn't sound very difficult to do what we are doing. And then also training is also a very strong part. A lot of people start very successful companies without doing any job. I think that's also one way of going about it and to radically change everything. But I personally think that if I hadn't worked at Carnelian, if I hadn't worked for Dr. Ali Hasnan, I wouldn't have been able to learn the things that are very important to run Akademos. I learned to do consulting from Carnelian. It was a different type of consulting, but consulting. I learned to do research from Dr. Ali Hasnan.
I think Amanullah is raising a very good point. It was the same for me. I think a large part of the work that we do within Akademos now is the development sector research. And I think that was being marred by the fact that I was taught by a very good mentor, Danish. And I think उनकी तरफ से यही था कि हम explore करें, हम नए ideas लेकर आएं, just like with Amanullah. And you know, I learned proposal writing there from him, with him. And I think that manifested really well for me in the long run to sort of integrate that into Akademos as well. And the idea was exploratory, and it was never as such ke acha theek hai. And even though like Amala was probably you were in a more corporate setting, I was more in a non-profit organization. Yes. There's less incentive to try new things. But I think what was very different there was that you know he enabled me to sort of like take on that responsibility and to just explore what we could potentially do. So we did not, we did land a very good projects there as well. But I think uske baad jo hai, when I left there and I think जब हमने Akademos में वो चीज़ integrate की, तो we had a lot of room to play with as well. So I think it was about at that time not minding कि यार दूसरा जो बंदा है जो मेरे लिए काम कर रहा है, मेरे नीचे काम कर रहा है, वो मेरे से सीखकर बड़ा बन जाएगा. But you know, and Danish does take a lot of pride in you know what we have become now, and I think
very honestly, I think so. We have the market research wing. That's I believe that's a mixture for me. That's a mixture of what I learned at research from Dr. Ali Hasnan, and then what I learned in consulting from Carnelian. So I sort of merged that two, and we built this market research unit. I do the model is exactly the same. I do the same model of meeting new people, selling, making proposals. And then our development sector wing is entirely what Saad used to do at Carvan. So we take these things, we try to incorporate our learnings from other elements. So if you look at Akademos, it's sort of a child of these different companies that we worked at. And I think that's also.
I think we're very proud to own that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm sure, like, I hope Carnelian and Carvan will be as well. But yeah, I think that's from there. I think and we've had mentors after we began Akademos. These were uske baad aa rahe the. I think Sadia Bukhari is one of the mentors.
Our first few clients who became our mentor as well.
And she's one of the people who actually took like उन्होंने वो एक leap of faith लिया था. Yeah, we didn't have any work, and I think she just said, okay.
So she was the head of marketing at Packages Mall. Right. We came to her with nothing, like we had no portfolio. She just really, I think, saw that we are passionate about something, and she gave us a chance. It was a very small project, almost pro bono project, but sort of we built that model together with Sadia. And after like 7 years now, we are still running that same model every year with Packages Mall on a retainer, because sort of she believed in us, and I think that's where credit is due as well. So you, not just your mentors, your client also have to believe in you. Yeah.
We still go back to her, and
She's actually one of our partners now. We
I
work
think
together.
because startups may, our director Umar Bhai, he always says your first customer is is the person who shapes your product,
Exactly.
and sets the direction for your company. So it's great that you had a very supportive and very and a first customer who you consider a mentor as well. I think that's amazing. Um, Theoretically speaking, was it easy as a person to ask for help, to seek advice? Is that a skill that you learned, or is that something that comes naturally?
I think it's very difficult in the beginning. So one of our core KPIs as when I joined consulting at Carnelian, a very strong KPI was that you have to meet 5 people, not internally, externally, 5 people every week. That's a KPI. They don't look at the numbers. They don't look at the revenue that you're bringing in. They don't look at anything else. If you're meeting 5 people every week, no one will question your work ethic. No one will question your job. You're not under any. I think that sort of reshaped my entire personality, at least externally, because initially it's very difficult to reach out to people, and also you realize that there are ways of reaching out. So if you're just a salesman, you're reaching out to sell, no one would talk to you. I wouldn't even talk to someone just simply reaching out to sell something. But I have realized that when you genuinely reach out for help, it could be any help. There's this innate human nature to help others, and I have had a very good response whenever I reach out to and be very candid and truthful about the help that you need. I don't think it's entirely something that you can learn. I think it's innate as well. I've seen that some people find it very difficult to ask for help, which is also okay. They find their ways as well. But for me, I think there's a lot of practice. So 4 years of trying to meet 5 people every week sort of shaped my entire personality. Now I don't have that. It sort of becomes my second nature and habit to just meet new people.
Right.
I think that's something that I sort of learned over time. And over time, it's still difficult. It's not easy when you reach out for help. But I find it reassuring that if someone was to reach out to me for help, I would never say no. So I think that's my take.
Came a bit easier for me, I guess. I was more of an extrovert than I think
Yeah.
Amanda is. But I think for me, yes, so reaching out to mentors for help is one. But I run a lot of ideas by my family as well. So, I mean, like Mana said, we're both from business families. So, the essence of running a business, at least, so consulting or research is one side that's more along to do with the technical side. But in terms of how to manage a business, in terms of how to navigate with your own team, navigate with your clients, navigate with a lot of different aspects of entrepreneurship. So I do consult a lot with my father as well, my wife for that matter, my brothers too. So I think that element is so. Yeah, it is relatively easier to reach out when you have that sort of like network and that support system who's guiding you in every way. So I'm very grateful for that. Like Manla said, I think that transition wouldn't have been possible as well, and the continuous feedback because that just like Manla's father, I think my dad's had like a longer period of experience within the business. So I think जो उसकी essence है वो same ही रहता है.
But you do have to kill your ego. I think over time,
course.
वो ego आपको मारनी पड़ती है.
I think people go through this journey when they come towards leadership positions as well, that they need to learn how to seek for help. And I feel anecdotally, every one of us is a data collector in our lives. जो मैंने देखा है, in my experience, people who are successful are generally better at this, are better at seeking out opinions and bouncing ideas off other people who are subject matter experts. And I think that's a very important skill. It's a very important habit. I would call it a habit.
I think this actually, sorry to cut you off, this actually, what you said is resonating a lot with me, because now that I look back, our one of like most of our core products or projects are not built internally or standalone by us. So, for example, this package is small project. It's measuring the ROI of marketing spend. Wouldn't have been possible if we did not collaborate or co-create it with Sadia Bukhari. Similarly, we are doing a very interesting social listening project with Dolans. I am very open to say this. It wasn't our idea. Someone, Sidra Masood from Dolans, she actually wanted to do it. She had the basic framework, and we collaborated together. We learned from her what she exactly wants and what we can do, and we sort of co-created that product. And that also makes it very difficult to replicate and replace then, because you are working with others to co-create. We have a very good mentor who used to be at Unilever, Asad Kaleem, and for 6 years we just running ideas together. I think after 4 or 5 or 6 years, we actually worked on a project together. So the expectation was never that you have to give me business. It was to just tell me what I need to learn, give me what you have learned. We keep evolving, and then we come up with something that is actually relevant for.
I think it's very important to be aware of the fact as well that as you're going to grow, and the nature of the work is such that we're not limited to one sector. We are in the research business, but we are engaging with pharmaceutical, appliances, banking, and so forth. So we have to have a sector expert within the project as well. So there's that awareness that I potentially cannot be expert at everything in every industry. That's one, but I can't be also an expert in scaling up a business, for example. So we have to sort of like seek that angle in terms of the business as well.
Coming to your business now, what is it that makes you different? Because your product is not new. There are bigger companies doing what you do. Why are companies coming to you? क्यों लोग आपके पास आ रहे हैं? क्या different है?
So I think I have a theory. It might be the wrong theory, and I think the clients are better to answer this question. Why do they come to us? But my theory is that there's a technical competence, how good you are at doing what is required, and then there's a behavioral competence as well, of just working with you. How is that as an experience? Just like an employee, even if it's a very smart employee, if you don't work well together, it won't be a very productive outcome. So there are two angles to this, and I personally believe, and this is something that I also took from my mentors, that your core values are way more important than your technical competence. Anyone could learn how to do a particular job technically, or we could hire someone to do that for us. But it's very difficult to replicate your core values and align it with the client as well. For example, one of our very first value that we discovered together was integrity. That no matter what, we will never lie to our client, we will never lie to our employee, and we will always be very radically transparent. I think that resonated with like-minded individuals. I'll give you one example. We were doing an activity, it's a brand activation, and we were doing the research of that activation at Packages Mall. And there was a complaint by a consumer that one of our enumerators was not being respectful and was there was this allegation that they were harassing this customer. And this customer called us. Our first reaction was obviously to go and take an action. We removed that person from the floor. We apologized to the consumer. The consumer thanked us and she left. Now that usually is the end of the story. But because there was very strong sort of dissonance in our hearts and minds that this is something that the client should be aware of. We went to the client and we were very transparent about it. And it's not something that we did as a favor. It's something that we think should be done regardless of its implication on the business. And I was expecting a very harsh reaction from the client that you should have done proper protocol, which would have been very fair. Our protocol should have been stricter, and they were made stricter later on. However, I think how humans perceive transparency and integrity, if they value it as well, if the other person values it as well, they sort of that sort of made a very special bond with that client, and they were very impressed because specifically in Pakistan, and I'm sure elsewhere as well, people tend to hide the weaknesses and play on their strengths. I think these are some anecdotes that just give me a theory that maybe the clients come after or come back to us because of these values more than the technical competence that we have. Again, I think that Saad said that our first few experiments as clients of this industry, it made us realize that there's a gap in data integrity. So even the formation or foundation of Akademos was to have that data integrity in place to bring the right data. Even if it tells you the story that is not in your mind, it's our responsibility to communicate
I think that's really
the truth.
important because Saad, you mentioned your focus was the social part of things, the working with the NGOs, which is also very interesting. I'd love to know more about how you got involved with actually getting these NGOs on board to come and work with Akademos. Again, a new company. कैसे आपने penetrate किया उधर? And of course, one of the key components would have been data integrity, the confidence that you gave them कि हमारा data जो है वो actually सही होगा. It's not somebody just filling out forms and reporting garbage. Garbage in, garbage out. That concept comes into play. Was that part of the story as well?
So, in terms of the development sector, I think it took us time because within the development sector, जो आपका criteria होता है projects लेने का, वो भी थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा tender based होता है या जिसमें government में होता है, and it's working very closely with the government. So we're doing a very interesting project. We've done a lot of interesting projects within the education space, within the gender space, health space as well. आई थिंक अगर मैं कुछ एक ही बात करूँ तो अभी जो हमारा ब्रिटिश काउंसिल के साथ एक प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है दैट इज टू डू विद ऑनलाइन सीपीडी ट्रेनिंग्स फॉर 150,000 primary teachers in Punjab. And we're doing monitoring and evaluation and impact evaluation for them, and we're collecting about 20,000 plus data points across 2 years, and उसके अंदर classroom observations and focus groups हैं. I think अगर so primarily वहाँ पर जो है there is a lot of confidence to be built with the client, and I think काम करके भी आता है, but it's also to engage with the respondent that way. I mean, we've engaged with beneficiaries जो TCF के साथ projects में करती हैं. I think microfinance में हम लोग social economic impact जो है farmers के साथ engage कर रहे थे. So I think it's different kind of respondents. That's one. But also sorry, okay?
Yeah.
So my question बीच में भूल गया, I'm so sorry.
No worries. So
We can start again.
Yeah, the question was how much data integrity has an impact on this, on getting the social aspect right.
So I think data integrity is quite important within the social domain as well. I think इसके बगैर जो है आप अगर let's say आपकी पूरी पॉलिसी जो है वो उससे इम्पैक्ट हो रही होती है. लेट्स से कि अगर आप डेटा जो अगर आपके पास आ रहा है रिस्पोंडेंट से जो कि टीचर्स का है, फॉर एग्जांपल अभी हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं ब्रिटिश काउंसिल के साथ एंड ऑनलाइन सीपीडी ट्रेनिंग्स में वो लोग इम्पैक्ट इवैल्यूएशन कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, हम कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं सॉरी उनके लिए, एंड वी आर डूइंग एमएनई फॉर देम. वी आर कलेक्टिंग डेटा ऑफ अबाउट 20,000 डेटा पॉइंट्स फ्रॉम प्राइमरी स्कूल टीचर्स. We're doing observations and focus groups as well. So उसमें बहुत ज़रूरी है कि इस 3-year long project के लिए this will translate into policy essentially.
Yes.
program जो है वो successful था या नहीं था. Whether teachers can sort of like take online CPD trainings in Punjab, or are we there in terms of teachers navigating through app and learning through app. So I think वो उसमें जो key findings and recommendations है वो identify करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. अगर for example data integrity हम लोग यहाँ पर miss report करेंगे या हम लोग एक clear picture नहीं देंगे या उसका एक clear I think उसका outcome नहीं जो है evaluated properly अगर नहीं हुआ होगा,
Yeah.
that could potentially result in the government allocating funds to a program that's not successful. So I think that's one part of it. The other is also to do with the fact that हम disease surveillance पर I think NIH के साथ काम कर रहे थे.
Oh.
And उस पे भी जो है we have to like ensure that the data flow is all right and it's going through the stream whereby it's sort of like policy के ऊपर किस तरह को impact कर रहा है. So I think primarily obviously it becomes more important within the social sector to ensure that data integrity is in place. And I think वहाँ पर ज़्यादा difficult भी है data collect करना, particularly because development space के अंदर, public space के अंदर, corporate में you're engaging with the urban populace more often than not.
Yeah.
यहाँ पर आप जो है rural populace के साथ ज़्यादा engage कर रहे होते हैं. It's in the remotest areas of Balochistan, KP, Sindh.
Amazing.
So I think we have to go down in the field ourselves sometimes as well. जैसे अभी हमने एक यूनेस्को के साथ एक प्रोजेक्ट रैप अप किया था. I think उसमें we were measuring the impact of the floods on the intangible cultural heritage sites.
Okay.
And वहाँ पर, for example, musicians के साथ क्या impact आया? I think artists के साथ क्या आया? And based on that, we were recommending to UNESCO to sort of like allocate funds there. वहाँ पर exactly जो है house reconstruction किस तरह से होनी है. So I think it becomes more important to the sort of like lives of people when you're gauging impact within the social.
I think at data integrity पे जो हमारा even though values is one thing, but we don't rely only on values. Maybe if you can also talk a bit about the measures that we take to make sure कि एक तो ये है कि अच्छे लोगों को आपने हायर किया जो ये मिस रिपोर्ट ना करें, खुद सर्विस फिल ना करें, but we don't rely on the good thinking of these people. There are a lot of there are tools at play here that make sure कि data integrity है. So maybe Saad can talk a bit about those tools as well.
I think, like Amanullah said, it's a bit about creating the systems in place. It's not just relying on the fact. So हमारे company में like सब बहुत एक humorous joke है कि Amanullah कोई भी अगर नया बंदा आता है तो उसको 45 मिनट values पे Amanullah का पूरा एक जो है वो form किया lecture मिलता है. That does happen by the way.
Right.
So but we're not entirely relying upon that. It's to do with the fact that, for example, we do have. एंड हमारा एक प्रोसेस ये है कि हम लोग जो डेटा कलेक्ट फील्ड से करा रहे होते हैं तो हमने कभी भी पेपर बेस्ड सर्वे नहीं किया बिकॉज़ पेपर बेस्ड सर्वे को जो है वो कर देना उसको टैम्पर करना बहुत आसान है. सो हम लोगों ने हमेशा जो है वी डन इट ऑन दीस प्लेटफॉर्म्स जो कि ऑनलाइन आपका एक टैबलेट के थ्रू आप डेटा कलेक्ट कर लेते हैं, बट उसमें भी हमने कन्फाइन उस तरह से नहीं किया कि डेटा रियल टाइम यहाँ पर आ जाए. सो वी डू backup QA of that, and we do that of 100% of the surveys that come in. So we are employing about 2 to 3 people जिनका सिर्फ काम दिन के अंदर ये है कि जितने भी सर्वेज across हमारे प्रोजेक्ट से आ रहे हैं उन्होंने हर सर्वे की हर डेटा एंट्री का जो है QA चेक करना है. And if there is any malignancy there, for example, then we have to deal with that. So अक्सर होता है, and it's human nature, and collecting data is not easy as well.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very field-oriented task.
How many people do you have doing that?
So we have about a team of 400 people across Pakistan, roughly. They are obviously hired on contractual basis, but we have evolved that list over time in terms of blacklisting those who have wronged us in the sense कि उन्होंने अगर गलत डेटा भेजा हो. एंड हमारी ट्रेनिंग जो है वो काफी स्ट्रांग होती है. सो हम ट्रेनिंग उनको हर प्रोजेक्ट से पहले बहुत कुछ वैल्यूज के ऊपर भी दे रहे होते हैं और कुछ जो है वो टेक्निकल एस्पेक्ट्स पे भी दे रहे होते हैं. बट डेटा जो है वो आई थिंक आपका हैंड हेल्ड टैबलेट्स या फोन पर कलेक्ट हो रहा होता है. अब हम लोगों ने अपना भी एक प्लेटफॉर्म बना लिया जिसके ऊपर हम लोग कलेक्ट कर रहे होंगे जिसमें इंटीग्रेटेड क्यूए है, बट बैक एंड पर मैनुअली भी क्यूए हो रहा होता है. सो आई थिंक वो इट्स जस्ट नॉट रिलाइंग ऑन the values of the people and integrity of each individual, because as we grow, that's going to get harder. But it's to build in systems that is going to ensure कि ये वाली चीजें जो हैं हम minimize कर रहे हो या even eliminate कर रहे हो.
And I'm sure your clients value that aspect of how you operate. You mentioned कि you're candid with them, you're more open than you need to be. आपने बताया कि you have the systems in place as well. coming towards technology and innovation as well, let's take a segue into that. What are the current innovations? क्या नई चीज़ें आ रही हैं आपकी फील्ड में? क्या आप implement कर रहे हैं? How are you trying to differentiate yourself in that in your field?
I think AI is a buzzword right now, so
Yeah.
we try to stay as much away from the hyped words because at times organizations just use this to get clients that okay, oh, we have incorporated AI into everything. So we don't do that, and we do strongly believe that you have to tread very carefully into new technology because until and unless they are tested and they actually add value, because at times they might be adding value but at a huge cost. That doesn't really. So for example, in Pakistan, labor cost is really low. So you don't have to get a thousands of dollar software to do a QA if you can employ someone that. And our core focus is not just growing our business, it is to employ people as well.
Yes.
There's a lot of people to be employed in Pakistan. So we try to be very efficient for the client. At the same time, employ the technology that actually will add value. For example, we do use AI in a very specific manner. In research, there are two types of data. There's quantitative data and qualitative data. Quantitative data is very easy to analyze because it's very structured, but it doesn't tell you the entire story. It tells you, it either validates or invalidates your hypothesis. Qualitative data tells you a narrative. It gives you the narrative. It tells you why of anything. So, for example, if I ask you which brand of coffee do you use, you'll just mark those brands. But if I ask you why do you use these brands, I'll get the insight then.
Yes.
I won't get the insight. Okay, this person is not buying our product. We should not target this person. But if I ask you why, I would be able to capture the actionable recommendation for my client. Now, historically, that qualitative has always been very difficult to analyze because you need a human person to analyze all that qualitative data. It's not just tick
Expensive as
boxes,
well.
and it's very expensive as well. With LLM, it has become possible now to quantitatively analyze qualitative data. So what we have done with that is, for example, in social listening, you get people mentioning comments about a particular brand, about a particular topic on social media publicly. For example, we have a appliances brand that we work with, and people are complaining about different appliances that they bought online and maybe writing some positive sentiments as well. Now, capturing all of that data and then analyzing it using LLM is now possible. So that sort of adds value to the business of our client by telling them exactly what people are talking about quantitatively, and then pulling out narratives through these statements as well. So that's one way of using tech to sort of enable our work better.
And I think this is something relatively new. Would not have been possible pre-AI as well.
Not have been possible, I think, 2 years back.
Acha, amazing. But coming to this point, what are the social listening? I'm very intrigued to know. Okay, how do you collect this data? I know. Okay, all of us get ads on our phone of things we are thinking about. Sometimes speaks you out. Integrity की बात हुई थी पहले हमारी. What are the connections? How do you source this data, and what is the value? Obviously, there is a lot of value that can come out. Do we need, as a consumers, to be concerned, or is there a proper way that you are actually doing this that is ethical as well?
So I can take this question only because I think social listening is a product that I'm leading right now. But I would also want, after social listening, we also discuss the other tech product that we are working on, which is training AI models. I think Saad is leading that project, and I wanted to talk about that. So within social listening, and your concern is very valid, it is the same concern that we have. I have actually personally given in to this lack of privacy, and I actually use it to my advantage. Whenever I'm looking for a product and I can't find it online, I just start talking about it in front of my phone, and the ad starts popping up. So if I'm compromising on my privacy, I might as well use it to my advantage. But no, so there are two different things. One, what you're talking about is targeted marketing or targeted promotions, and what we do is just collecting data. We don't tell our clients who mentioned that I want this product. The identifiable information of any individual, even though they're mentioning it publicly in a public group, we only capture that on a holistic way and tell them that, okay, for example, 50% of total sentiment was talking about a complaint in this part of your product. We don't share any identifiable information, personally identifiable information, and that is not even available through capturing this data. What you're talking about is targeting profiling. So, for example, if I run an ad on Facebook and I tell it that I want everyone who might be interested in microphones, for example, I want this ad to be shown to them. I think that is done through those targeted marketing and not through the data that we collect. So there are two separate things.
Understood. Ji Saad.
I think जो है one of the very interesting projects that we are doing is to train AI models. उसमें basically with the AI revolution there is this very expanded set of data sets coming in, and I think उसमें data AI को train करने के लिए आपको large unstructured data को structure में लेके जाना होगा.
Right.
और उसको करने के लिए आपको back end पे जो है you need to annotate and label that data or to put that data into a particular form for the machine to be trained essentially. And वहाँ पर जो है there is a lot of manual annotation required. That could be in terms of image annotation, video annotation. For example, Tesla जो है वो अपनी self-driving cars के लिए उसको
video
annotation करती है. आप उसके यूज केसेस और भी हैं जिसके अंदर आई थिंक एग्रीकल्चरल लैंड के अंदर बेस्ट आइडेंटिफाई किया जा सकता है. हेल्थ केयर में जो है वो मेमोग्राम्स के ऊपर जो है आप आइडेंटिफाई ट्यूमर करके एंड यू नो द मशीन कैन लर्न एंड देन डिटेक्ट इट. For our use case, we are actually applying that with one partner here in Dubai, who is sort of like training their AI model to identify SKUs or products in a retail store. जो गंडोलास के ऊपर फॉर एग्जांपल होते हैं एंड उन रिटेल स्टोर्स में द आइडिया इज वेरी सिंपल कि आप पहले अगर रिटेल ऑडिट करने जाते थे तो आपको एक कागज के ऊपर लिखना होता था कि इतना प्रोडक्ट हमारा इस शेल्फ के ऊपर पड़ा हुआ है एंड यू नो उसका शेयर ऑफ शेल्फ इतना है या ऑन शेल्फ अवेलेबिलिटी उसकी है कि नहीं. सो नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इज दैट द मर्चेंडाइजर गोस इनटू द रिटेल स्टोर्स, दे जस्ट टेक अ पिक्चर and through that picture the machine sort of learns कि अच्छा ये X जो है SKU है, इस SKU के ऊपर जो है एंड उसकी भी कैटेगरीज कौन सी हैं, कितने प्रोडक्ट्स पड़े हुए हैं. सो उस एक पिक्चर के अंदर या उस पूरी शेल्फ के अंदर ऑन शेल्फ अवेलेबिलिटी एक तो प्रोडक्ट की है या नहीं है और फिर शेयर ऑफ शेल्फ कितना है और वो किस आई लेवल के ऊपर सॉर्ट पड़ेगी. सो इसको मशीन को ट्रेन करने के लिए बिकॉज द नंबर ऑफ SKUs आर सिग्निफिकेंट, सो इसको ट्रेन करने के लिए उनको बैक एंड पे लार्ज डेटा सेट जो है चाहिए होते हैं जिसमें आपको hundreds and thousands of images जो है प्रोसेस करने होते हैं. मशीन ऑलरेडी कर रही होती है बट उसके दो कंपोनेंट्स हैं. There is one that you have to do the QA and the other component is also कि पहले जब आप मशीन ट्रेन हो रही होती है तो आपको डेटा को एनोटेट करना होता है.
Yes.
So we kind of realized that in terms of the annotation market in the world, where sort of like US के अंदर AI जो है वो काफी
I think every company is now building an AI model, and I think there's I don't remember the figure. I think 7-8 billion.
So it's $2.3 billion right now, but it's projected to increase to $7.8 billion in about 3 to 5 years.
Just the annotation market.
Just the annotation market. And उसके अंदर भी एक large component. Yes, you could वो एक मतलब आपके softwares हैं जो automated कर देते हैं, but then there is also the annotation which is to be done manually जो experts करते हैं या even experts भी नहीं करते हैं but एक कोई भी आम बंदा crowdsource करके भी आप कर सकते हैं. So we kind of realized that this is a space where essentially there is an arbitrage जहाँ पर जो है आपको ट्रेन करने के लिए दुबई US UK से आप companies के साथ you get in touch and you manually annotate the data in Pakistan.
Right.
And we're trying to create a Pakistan as an annotation hub whereby you could employ about thousands of people to do annotations on a regular basis.
That's
to sort of like build that export gap. उसमें आपकी जो है foreign currency भी आ सकती है. So currently we have a team of about 100 people sitting in Lahore and Karachi. Doing that on a daily basis, and they're all employed people. They're like expert annotators.
Wow.
And I think a lot of our focus of our business in the next 3 to 5 years is going to be
to center ourselves around that sort of getting that work. So that's I think the product that we are in the middle of. I think it's not as so again we're not technical experts there, but we are sort of like assisting the industry,
Enablers.
sort of like
Yeah,
enablers
you're
to sort of
enablers.
like create jobs.
Amazing. I think that will have a significant impact, and there's a long way to go in that. This is not going anywhere. इसमें और लोग involved होंगे, and I think if we get on that journey of promoting Pakistan as a hub for annotation, that can be a fantastic story. Uh, you have recently moved to Dubai. You set up shop here. I think that's another theme that Hub 47 is kind of part of the story over here. We're also looking to support people who recently moved, entrepreneurs who want to access this market. Um, how was that thought process for you? Decision making, why Dubai? Um, क्या आपको जो है अपने आप I mean your work is very localized, local expertise बहुत involved होती है. So how do you intend to break into this market? Is it more sales oriented? Is it more annotation focused? What is the thought process?
So I think we and just to clarify, we have registered a company here, and we plan on expanding here. But we don't, in the long term, intend to move out of Pakistan. So we are going to be as much in Pakistan as in any other country, because again the core foundation of our business was to create jobs within Pakistan, and also so there are multiple angles to it. The first angle was when we started thinking about this is that our core goal was that we have to double every year, both in terms of revenue, in terms of the people that we employ, in terms of everything. And we have been doing that for the past, I think, 5-6 years. And we plan on keep doing that for the next 10 years. And maybe Pakistan will be able to manage that growth for the next 3, 4, 5 years. But after that, and given the current economic circumstances, we will have to move out of Pakistan to expand.
Yes.
There's no two thoughts about it. Instead of waiting for that point to come and then we are forced to do it as a reactionary model, we want to proactively start that process now. And so that in the next 4 or 5 years, when there's a need, we are already halfway through. That's the first reason. The second reason is that the current economic situation, it just doesn't resonate with us to do a business that is putting pressure on the economy. If we start importing things and selling locally, that's very easy to do relatively, but it will be I think that doesn't really resonate with us. So this also contributes to the, like, however small the amount, at least we are positively contributed to the foreign exchange problem of Pakistan. So we are bringing in money instead of taking out money. That's point number 2. Point number 3 is that there's this arbitrage that Saad mentioned, that and historically India has utilized that arbitrage as well, with very low local cost of resources and people, employees and labor, and very high value in the outside world. Now, a silver lining of our economic trajectory has been that rupee has depreciated, and we can fill that arbitrage and actually add value to the lives of the individuals who have, because of this economy, really had an impact on their lives. So I think these are the 3 core reasons why. I can talk about how later, but if Saad wants to add anything.
I think what I like overall in everything you've done so far is the why is very clear, and it's a very good why. It's coming from the right place, and I really appreciate that about whatever you've done so far. आपने शुरू से लेके अब तक दुबई आने का भी फैसला जो है, it's the motivation is very correct, very true. I think uh, we need more companies from Pakistan to become global companies. I think that should be your 20-year vision as well.
Exactly.
Not just 5 years. You have to become a global company.
Why
You have
not?
to become a global brand, inshallah. So you're on that path. Dubai will help you do that. But based in Pakistan, you will have that competitive advantage, as you just said. That's very relevant, very true. One final question before we close the podcast. आपका जो है एक्सपीरियंस कैसा रहा दुबई में सेटअप करने का?
So it was fairly simple. I think वही हम पहले बात कर रहे थे कि जब आप यहाँ पर आते हैं तो एक there is a certain certainty of in terms of registering the company, in terms of conducting business. So I think it was fairly smooth in terms of registering the business as well, in terms of meeting people too. I think they've been very supportive. We're just still trying to navigate our way, and I think Hub 47, the platform, that has been really, we've been welcomed here really well, and I think we hope to sort of like continue to build that network around too. And yes, like Amanullah said, so हमारा एक पाँव हमेशा वहाँ पर रहेगा. The idea is कि हम बाहर निकल कर it's really important for us to learn what's going on in the global economy as well, and to just ensure that we're taking our best practices there too, but also to provide real sort of like solutions to businesses across the world. I think just the annotation ki maine baat ki, that's one. I think it's going to be our core international business as well. There's a lot of business. There are a lot of models playing jahan par a lot of the people, very skilled people in Pakistan, are actually working there as data scientists, as developers, and वहाँ पर एक बहुत बड़ी market है, and relatively low cost for the world outside Pakistan. And I think the idea is to sort of like bridge that gap too. So it's going to be exciting times, I think, and I think Dubai is going to be the place where we position ourselves to access those sort of like global markets.
Yes.
Sorry, just adding to what Saad said, I think it's a very good time, I feel, with the Middle East sort of becoming really important economically across the globe. Not just Dubai, but Saudi Arabia and Egypt, for example, and other countries. So I think we should benefit from this because we are situated in this part of the world as well. Secondly, I feel, and we joke about this as well, that after you have survived Pakistan, I think anywhere else in the world becomes relatively easier. So there are two mindsets in Pakistan that I think we were also went through. One is that it's very difficult in Pakistan. It is, and we talk about this very candidly. You don't get paid for the level of work that you're doing. And it gives you a very good learning experience. So we are doing at, I think, 1/10 of the price that the world is paying what the other companies are doing. So that sort of gives you the good mindset. The negative mindset that I think at least I went through initially was that maybe we are not good enough. Maybe as a Pakistani company, we're not good enough. But only when you step out of your comfort zone, we went for our masters, we went to different conferences in the world, we realized that we are as good as any other company, if not better. And if we can survive those uncertainty variables in Pakistan, there's no electricity one day, there's no internet the other day, there's no road the other day. If you can survive that, and if your work is as good as others, then why not? We can, and inshallah, we'll try to sort of become an example, and we're just trying, and there are a lot of people supporting us and believing in us. So yes, hopefully in the next year we will have some more stories to tell.
That's great. I mean, thank you so much for summarizing it so well. Again, Dubai is amazing. I really appreciate that about you guys. आप दुबई आए, बार बार आए. Inshallah, you will see a big community. एक तो there's one other aspect that Dubai has is that there is a lot of diversity. So you will experience that, and that will open your mind to further experiences. Thank you so much for giving your insights. It was lovely to have you guys here, and really appreciate your feedback, your comments, and your candidness as well.
Thank you for having us. I think I'm really humbled by the support of the Pakistani community in Dubai as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.